Good morning. As you know, in a moment, we will fly with the Polish delegation to Paris for the final talks on support for Ukraine and possible security threats, which have already been declared by the European countries. The United States, Canada, or maybe other countries will also contribute to this after obtaining some conditions of peace, or at least a ceasefire. As I said a dozen or so days ago, these talks and efforts in European, American, Ukrainian diplomacy give a chance, a little more than a shadow of a chance, but certainly not a guarantee. They give a chance to obtain peace in Ukraine. I don't have to explain how important it would be from our point of view, from the Polish point of view, if these efforts and these talks would lead to a ceasefire and peace. We will discuss the details of the Paris Declaration. The name is understandable. This last meeting will take place in Paris. This declaration will not be a commitment, which would require some specific logistical and financial decisions from this group of countries, but it will be a confirmation of the will, I think, that everyone will accept this declaration, of the will of full cooperation between Europe and the United States for the guarantee of security, support for Ukraine, reconstruction of Ukraine after the war, and above all, obtaining fair and safe, from the point of view of Ukraine and Europe, conditions of peace, or at least a ceasefire. I know that we all would like much more concrete, not declarations, but decisions. But to do this, of course, we need goodwill from the aggressor. For now, there are no signals from Russia, and the aim of this Paris meeting is to tighten and unify the positions of Europe and the United States. Because this is the pressure, and only such pressure has a chance to force the Russians to seriously deal with the issue of ceasefire and then peace. As you know, and no one is hiding it, we will also discuss some elements of these future documents of the 20-point peace plan. So far, this document has been kept in quite a deep secret. We relied on our knowledge of leaks, guesses. At the moment, it is known what the starting point is, so these 20 points, as well as the documents that will describe the cooperation of the European states and the United States in the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. But you should not expect in Paris the decisions of these final, not excluded, but to sign the documents that will ultimately confirm the joint American-European position in the coming days, perhaps in Washington. Here the issue is still open. There is no doubt that the topic not foreseen by us and not planned will also be the issue of Greenland. It aroused a lot of emotions throughout Europe. For Poland, two things are clear and very difficult to reconcile. Let's face it, but they are obvious, clear and unambiguous. No member of the North Atlantic Pact should attack or threaten another member of the North Atlantic Pact. Otherwise, it would make no sense if within this pact there was conflict or mutual aggressive steps. It is very important for us that all possible disputes or discussions were resolved, of course, in a friendly dialogue between NATO members. European solidarity and respect for the integrity of European countries are elementary issues. So, of course, Denmark can count on the solidarity of the whole of Europe. I have no doubts about that, but at the same time, Poland is one of the best examples. We have to do everything to ensure that the European, American and transatlantic ties, which are the foundation of NATO and our security, do not suffer in the coming days and months as a result of such or other announcements, decisions or disagreements. It is a difficult task. It will require goodwill from all sides, but I would like it to be clear to everyone in Washington that any attempts to break or undermine the essence of NATO, the North Atlantic Pact, will not be accepted in any European country. At least I hope so. To conclude, we live in very strange times. This year, 2026, started with a unique setback. But let's also look at the issue of Polish security in a strategic dimension from the perspective of the last few hours and looking a little further into the next few weeks. Therefore, various storms, whirlwinds, misunderstandings and unrest will shake the world of the West, but Poland must be one of those countries that will take care of maintaining this strategic European-American bond, not for the next year, not for the next 3 years, but for decades, because this is a guarantee of security for the whole of our civilization, not just Poland. And in this spirit, I will also convince our partners to be solidary, staunch, but at the same time, not to make any mistakes. Thank you very much, and see you in Paris today.
It is, of course, too early to announce any overly optimistic statements. Peace primarily requires a positive decision by the aggressor to end military actions, but precisely in order to exert effective pressure on the Russian aggressor, it is necessary to clarify, step by step, a position common to the United States, the European Union, and other countries informally associated in a willing coalition. Today, too, although this requires full discretion, we have already discussed more detailed solutions which, as we understand, are also accepted by Washington regarding security guarantees and the role of individual countries, both the United States and European states. And this already looks really promising and increasingly concrete, as I have emphasized many times. Poland is ready and will certainly fulfill all logistical tasks. There is no expectation from our partners for the presence of Polish troops in Ukraine under any scenario, and we have said this many times already. I would like to express courage and confidence in Ukraine and to everyone gathered, saying that Poland is a model example of how a country can rise from a state of economic collapse, carry out ambitious reforms, and conduct sound economic policy over the years, and that Ukraine has a chance. Here I quote Mr. Kushner. Ukraine has the opportunity to follow the Polish path and achieve the successes that Poland has achieved. It reminds me a bit of the message I conveyed in an informal New Year's address to Europeans. Be like Poland. We received President Trump's declaration with great hope, and I was also pleased to note the readiness, in fact expressed by all today's participants, to generate pressure on Russia, including through sanctions if necessary, to compel Russia to take these peace efforts seriously. I emphasize that Poland is not naively optimistic regarding Russia's position. I remain very skeptical about Russian goodwill, whether it will exist or not, and there was general agreement on this. However, the pressure is twofold: an extensive, international, and united system of support for Ukraine during the war, and real security guarantees for the post-war period, while simultaneously exerting pressure, including sanctions against Russia in this regard. That is how it will proceed. Ukraine and all the countries participating in today's meeting show, in a sense, goodwill. Let's call a spade a spade. Ukraine is ready to compromise, or at least is seriously and sincerely discussing compromise. And these peace conditions would not be particularly humiliating for anyone. No indiscretion will persuade me otherwise, because, not by chance, this part of our meeting, concerning specifics of security guarantees for Ukraine, was discreet, and we agreed it was covered by a confidentiality clause. But these security guarantees, the key point is that all countries involved in this process, including the United States, must participate. Our task, and I am not revealing any particular secret here, although I often see that not everyone notices, is that the main goal of these meetings we attend is to maintain full transatlantic solidarity in the pressure on Russia. Europe wants this, and today the United States at least declares that it also wants to cooperate in providing real security guarantees for Ukraine. To what extent were issues raised during this meeting, and to what extent do words and actions on the American side undermine the credibility of the United States as a partner? No one wanted to spoil the atmosphere of good cooperation regarding Ukraine. Therefore, no one, not even the Danish Prime Minister regarding Greenland, brought it up, because today the topic was our joint work with the Americans on security guarantees for Ukraine.